Tell me if I'm wrong, but hard work has nothing to do with effort. It has everything to do with the environment that brings tell me if I'm wrong. Hard work has nothing to do with effort. It has everything to do with the environment that brings the effort out of you. And if the environment doesn't demand it, then you won't need the push. And you don't even know what working hard is until you've been around people who operate at a different level. And that's when you see the gap between what you thought was effort and what real effort actually looks like. And there's a massive difference on how people are wired. Some people love to win, some people hate losing. Neither one are wrong, but I don't think either one will fully understand each other. And someone who loves to win is driven by the reward, the trophy, the recognition, the results. That works until they get it. And then they need the next win, and then the next one. And then their drive depends on something external showing up. And the realization that I had was that my hard wasn't even close. So when there was a time where I almost died, how old was I? I think I was like 20. I was still in college, and I had a rare condition called Dulafloy's lesion. And it's basically what happens is when you have a shallow blood vessel and you're born with it genetically in part of my stomach. And the shallow blood vessel ended up rupturing somehow. And so I was bleeding out very slowly and passing it through my stools. And so I was slowly bleeding out. And I eventually passed out. My roommates found me and they ended up taking me to the hospital. And for the longest time, they couldn't even diagnose what was wrong. There was a lot of issues. They just knew I had a low blood count. So at the lowest, my hemoglobin count was probably right around 4, which is extremely low. Look, I was at serious risk of dying. The ER doctor came in. They were like, "Wow, like we need to start blood transfusions right away because you could go into cardiac arrest at any time." Like, I mean, I was short of breath. I was cold. It was very hard to breathe. Like, I was not doing well at all. And yeah, that was a rough experience. And I went through multiple different procedures and endoscopies and cauterizations. Finally had to see a specialist, Dr. Bedford. Thank you, Dr. Bedford, up at UCLA. And he ended up putting a clamp on it and then stopped the bleeding. And I've been good ever since. Had Thai food that night after the operation, in fact. But what that really showed me was how quickly life can go from easy to hard. And I thought my life was hard being a college student, studying, playing college baseball and training and working out hard. I thought that was hard. I thought CrossFit was hard. I was new to CrossFit. I was probably about a year or two into CrossFit. Mm, no, that was my about 3 years into CrossFit. And I thought that was hard until I almost died. And when losing isn't an option, because losing then would have meant I die. That really sucked. And for the first time in my life, nothing mattered other than fighting for my life or living. Like, suddenly nothing mattered. Like, finals or midterms didn't matter. I think, which was going on at the time. I can't remember if it was finals or midterms because I don't remember what time of year it happened. But nothing mattered. CrossFit didn't matter. Nothing other than getting out of the hospital and getting better again didn't matter. And that was probably one of the, even though it was a negative experience, quote unquote, it was probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me, because when you almost lose everything and you almost don't literally make it out alive, it makes you live your life with, or want to live your life with, no regrets. I distinctly remember, I kind of went through a phase of where I wasn't doing so hot mentally after I was better. I mean, part of it was just the fact that my blood count was so low, and I'm tired from all the transfusions. And then I wouldn't call it trauma from the whole hospital visits, but it wasn't fun throwing up blood and also having blood pass through all my orifices. That was not fun. So I will say it was a negative experience, but I wouldn't call it traumatic. Um, but it made me more aggressive and less apologetic. And I wasn't afraid to go after what I wanted after I recovered, because I knew now, as someone, an invincible 20-year-old who was training for their first CrossFit competition and who was a college athlete and was super young at the time and thought I was hot shit. Um, you see I saw very quickly at a young age how quickly things can go sideways, like within like a day or two. And this always takes me back was when there's a scene in Fight Club when Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden, and he looks at Edward Norton and he says, "It's not until we've lost everything that we're free to do anything." And that's actually literally how I felt after that position. And so to the point where I had no fear opening my own gym. I really didn't have any fear of what people thought of me. I was like, I'm going to drive forward and do what I want, because this day is going to come again. Like, I'm going to die again. And then ironically, 10 years later, I almost died again from sepsis. And so, which was a lot easier to get through. That's a whole nother story. I'll do that in another podcast. But that was incredibly freeing towards pursuing what I actually wanted. And then a lot of times people ask me, they're like, "Hey Matt, like, how do you like get through the hard days?" Or, I get texts like this from other gym owners, or I get talked to with other people, how do you work so hard? How do you do all this? And I'm like, well, because one day I'm going to die, and I don't want to die with any regrets. I don't want to die knowing that I left something on the table. I don't want to die knowing that I could have contributed more to society and I held back because I was afraid of what other people thought about me, or the comments or DMs on social media that told me to shut up, or that I don't know what I'm talking about, or the times where other people are like, "Wow, you really charge too much. You're ridiculously overpriced," or the times where people want to cancel their membership because they think I'm an asshole for enforcing my policies. Like, there's just so many things that I'm easily able to handle because I'm like, I've had worse. And I've gone through a lot worse. And that's what helped me get through COVID. That's what helped me get through this move of moving the gym in February. So many of things. And then I think oftentimes we look at things where we could lose it all and we think about it as a negative experience, when really it's one of the most freeing experiences you can ever have. And this is also why I hate losing. I'm one of those people, I used to be someone who loved winning, and I'm someone who hates losing. And I think people like that. And then this is just an opinion. If you love winning and it works, good for you. I'm rooting for you. It works for you. Great. I'm just telling you what works for me. This is a documentary, not a sermon. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you that you should hate losing and that you should love winning, whatever. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just telling you what works for me. And I believe people who hate losing are wired completely differently, because they don't need a prize. They think about falling behind. They think about getting outworked. They think about leaving something on the table. And that's what gets them up in the morning. And that's what gets me up in the morning, because I hate losing so much. And that fuel stays on. And loving to win, believe me, I love to win. But to me, that feels more like a mood. And hating losing becomes an identity. And when it's an identity, behavior follows. And here I am. It's 6:23 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I'm here in the gym by myself recording this. I got up at 5:30 on a Saturday. I'm sore. I'm tired. I stayed up last night on Friday night after putting the kids to bed till like 10:30, putting this outline for this podcast together. And, I want to be here, but I also don't. Let's be real. I would have much rather slept in, because my first client's not till 8 a.m. But this is the only time I have to record, and to where I can have quiet and I can focus and I can do my thing. So, and the reason is because I know my competition right now. I know right now they're asleep. It's Saturday morning. They're probably asleep. And here I am every Saturday and Sunday making content. And this is why I get ahead, because people assume that I'm like, I work like just like any other 9 to 5. Like, I don't. And the only way that I can get ahead is to work harder and put in more effort than everyone else. And here's how I quantify it too. One thing that really helps, that if you want to win or if you hate losing, is also to quantify the work that you do in order to get ahead and to win. Because ultimately that's the goal, whether you hate losing or you love winning, is that ultimately we all want to win. We all want the same thing, but we just have different drivers. And so me versus them in here. So let's just say theoretically, and I like looking at numbers and then at least projecting data, because that helps me mentally frame around. It helps me work even harder and putting more effort in. But me versus them over here. So let's say I did 2 podcasts a weekend, times 52 weeks. That's 104 pieces of long form content. And then everybody else in my competitive area is doing 0. And that's not 104 posts. That's 104 chances to build trust. It's 104 chances to tell stories. It's 104 chances to position myself as the person that I want to become, or that other people need to hear, and telling and getting. That's 104 opportunities to change someone else's life. And now I stack that. So like each podcast will give me at least, can be up to 5 to 10 clips. I can get 2 to 3 written posts out of that. I get 1 email, and look, I'm about 700 to 1,000 pieces of content per year, and my competitor isn't even playing the same game anymore. And I think that that's what sets me apart from people who want to win and those who actually win, is that they simply just will put in more effort, not necessarily more work, but they'll give more effort. And our brain is wired to avoid loss. And I think personally, I like leaning into that, because when losing becomes missing workouts, or if it becomes breaking your word, if it becomes dropping your standard, your brain treats that like a threat. And I know that may not be the most happy-go-lucky story, but again, just telling you what works for me. My brain does treat it like a threat. And not now showing up is enforced internally. And this is how I get up every morning. This is how I'm able to work late at night, is because it's just my choice, and this is exactly what works for me. And part of my identity is that I don't miss. I finish what I start. When your actions don't match that, then tension builds. And the only way to resolve that is through action. And then consistency comes from alignment. And then you end up protecting who you are. And you really just have to remove the exit. All right. So some people leave the space, or leave themselves space to slip. They're like, I'll go later, I'll make it up. But when I'm in I hate to lose mentality, it's anytime that happens, it creates inconsistency with who I am. And so I decide ahead of time that, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, because this is what's required to not lose, not to win, but to not lose. And I don't have that daily negotiation with myself. And then those standards create structure, and then that low energy that helps me get through regardless of my energy levels. It helps me get my workouts in, because I hate losing. And then it helps me mentally reframe about if I need to scale or go lighter in the workout, because I'm just going to get it in, because I'm the kind of person who doesn't miss, because again, I hate losing. And then every rep that I do that I don't want to do ends up reinforcing the standard. And just a hot take here is that I would say that quitting your worst habit will change your life faster than starting your best habit. I think we as humans naturally respond to negative things better. Not I wouldn't say better, but we just respond better to negativity. We just respond more aggressively to negativity, I should say, because it's a threat. And when you think about it, look at the news, or look at social media. Everything is kind of starts off negative, because you're like, well, bad news can wait. I'm sorry, not bad. Good news can wait. I totally got that backwards. So good news can wait, but bad news can't. We always have this mental thing of where we need to stop the leaks in the bucket, and we can't. And then it's like, we have to go into problem solving mode. And one thing I like to do, or one of my favorite quotes, is that you can't solve the problem if you're playing by the rules, or if you can't solve the problem, you're still playing by the rules that created it. And so instead of winning, I think about losing. One thing that now we can practically take away is what helps me personally with all this, is that I set my environment up for success, and I set the standard. I remove any kind of exit plans, and I keep showing up, and that's what actually holds the line. And at the end of the day, my goodness, is that I hate to tell you guys this, but you're going to lose sleep. You're going to doubt whether it'll work. You're going to stress to make ends meet, and you're never going to finish your to-do list, and you're going to wonder if you made the right call, and you're going to have no way to know this for years. And that's what hard feels like. And that's okay. And take it from someone who's been there. Take it for someone who has been making content for the last 4 years now with not knowing if this was going to work or not, or to start a podcast. I started the podcast, 3 years ago now. If you take anything away from this podcast, it's that your life is a reflection of what you tolerate, not what you want. So set a standard so clear that breaking it feels worse than the work required to keep it. I'll say that again. Set a standard so clear that breaking it feels worse than the work required to keep it. So define what losing is, make it unacceptable, remove every exit. And no more like later, no more I'll start on Monday, no more, oh, maybe next time, no more I'll make it up. Like, you don't rise because you're motivated, you rise because you don't allow yourself to slip. And close the gap between what you say, what you do, and everything will change. Until next time, good luck, have fun, and nailed it.